Senzo Meyiwa murder trial defense advocate Malesela Teffo has dropped a bombshell in court today. 5 men are accused of the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana captain who was shot dead in what the state claims is a suspected robbery at the home of the mother of his then girlfriend, Kelly Khumalo. Now, Teffo told the court that a witness will testify that it was actually singer Kelly Khumalo who mistakenly shot and killed the star.
I put it to you, Mr. Mnisi, that witness, not just witness, eyewitness, will testify that Senzo Meyiwa was allegedly shot by a non-Tanda Kelly Khumalo by mistake, as it is alleged. Do you have a response?
No response on that, my lord.
Our reporter Linda Mnisi is tracking that story. He joins us now live in studio. Linda, when we look at the claim that has been put forward by advocate Teffo today, of course, it's part of what has formed the rumor or even speculation mill over the last 7 years that we've been waiting for this trial to get underway. But the fact that it has now been officially submitted before the court, quite important.
Important indeed, Kathy, and it comes at the backdrop of course, the revelation of the contents of the second docket in this matter. We know that case 37501 of 2019 is the one where Kelly Khumalo is listed as one of the suspects in that particular matter. If you look at the charges in that particular docket, it says that she would have been charged with murder and defeating the ends of justice, together, of course, with all the people who were in this house. So her name coming out strongly, particularly when you look at what could have possibly happened inside the house. We hear how she could have been the one that was driving the vehicle that took Senzo to the hospital, but also advocate Malesela Teffo yesterday saying that the fact that Senzo's body was removed from the scene, that alone is a crime, because the people that removed his body are not medically trained. So the removal of his body and sending him to hospital was merely to just dump his body, because he claims that Meyiwa died at the Khumalo home in Vosloorus.
Linda, we'll continue with you in a moment. I want to bring into this conversation lawyer Ulrich Roux. Ulrich, good evening to you. Thanks for your time in being part of this conversation. Quite interesting, and I don't know if it's something we see often, Ulrich, where there are two dockets on the very same crime, but it lists completely different completely different suspects rather, and proposed, events in terms of what may have unfolded. What do you make of it?
Hi, good evening, Kathy. Thank you for having me. Yes, it's certainly not an ordinary course of events. We don't see that very often. We, in fact, see it very seldomly in our courts. And it is problematic because, of course, the evidence contained in one docket would be different from the evidence contained in another docket. And that is room for the defense to show that there is reasonable doubt and that, the statements don't corroborate each other, and certainly would pose a problem for the state. So one would have to wait and see how the state explains this and what the judge makes of it, whether he thinks that the two dockets are contradictory of each other or whether they in fact supplement each other. And one can expect the defense certainly to harp on that and to try and use that to their advantage.
Of course, when we look at what is contained in either one of these defenses, again, just going back to the suspects and, the sequence of events in terms of what has happened and the legal arguments being put before the court, does it make it more difficult, Ulrich, going forward to try and secure convictions, especially if the integrity of these dockets are intact? So if they're found to both be documents that have come out of the police, system, and the information that has been put in there has been done by officials.
Yes, definitely. I think one must remember here what the onus is in a criminal trial. The onus on the state is to prove a person's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So if there's 1% doubt created in the state's case, then theoretically the accused must be acquitted. They must be found not guilty, and that's the end of the case. Whereas the defense onus and the onus on the accused is merely to show to the court that their version is reasonably and possibly true. So the onus is much heavier on the state, and matters such as this, where there's two dockets and possibly contradicting evidence contained in those dockets, certainly could create a lot of doubt in the state's case. One would have expected, I think the right procedure would have been to amalgamate the two dockets, to contain all of the evidence together, and to the evidence that does not support the state's case, for that to be, does not support the state's case, but also does not contribute towards the matter and the actual unveiling of the actual truth that happened, for that evidence to be disregarded. So I'm not certain why the police did not do that. That would have certainly made the life easier for the state if they had amalgamated those two dockets.
Linda, I wanted to take a look again at what is being said by Advocate Teffo. As far as it stands right now, this is only a claim. It will have to be substantiated. How has he said that he'll go about doing this?
Well, the fact that he says he'll bring a witness becomes one important aspect. At this time, he hasn't named who the witness is, given, of course, what they claim is, a risk on the lives of the witnesses. But it's not the only witness that he said he would bring. He also claims that he's got another witness who can prove that, in fact, there was a cleaning of the scene by a certain Maggie Peary, who we understand to be the neighbor of the Khumalos in Vosloorus. So at this point, it was ventilated in court that at this point it remains just, hearsay, but can be substantiated when a witness comes to court and actually testifies.
I remember one of the things that was said by Advocate Kherinel, Linda, about where we are in the case, and he believes we're not even at the point where the information that is coming out will be is substantial in as far as linking the alleged suspects behind that murder to the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. And that was very interesting to me, because he's somebody that has actually had an opportunity to look at these dockets.
Absolutely, Kathy. And if you look at the evidence that has come forward at this point, and how the defense is quite adamant that the crime scene itself was compromised, was contaminated. In fact, it's not Advocate Malesela Teffo who's only going about that route, but you hear it also from the cross-examination conducted by lawyer for accused number 5, Advocate Zandile Mshololo, saying that, in fact, when the police, or when Sergeant Thabo Musia arrived at the crime scene, when he finally arrived, he found police officers inside the house, and that alone would amount to a contamination of the scene. The evidence around the door that the suspects are said to have used to enter the house is not there, because the swabs, the DNA swabs, were not taken by Sergeant Musia, who was supposed to have taken it. The police are also thought to have used the very same door to enter. So at this point, there hasn't been any evidence really that links the suspects to this case.
Ulrich, let me bring you in here again. Ultimately, when we look at what Advocate Teffo has said before the court, is that, he believes, of course, that his suspects have been framed, and ultimately that there is a grand conspiracy that has taken place in collusion between the 7 suspects in that house that all know what happened when Senzo Meyiwa was murdered. What is it going to take to be able to prove that? And does he actually need to prove it, or is all he has to do create doubt, as you were saying earlier?
There's certainly very explosive revelations made in court today. And what he's busy doing is he's busy putting the version of his clients and the accused that he represents before court. So their version is that none of the accused, in fact, pulled the trigger that shot and killed Senzo Meyiwa, and that was, in fact, Kelly Khumalo, and that he will be calling a witness in support of the defense to put this before court. And that witness will then obviously be scrutinized through cross-examination to determine if he or she is telling the truth or not. But yes, at this stage it is just hearsay, as correctly pointed out, until a witness comes and testifies. But certainly a very explosive revelation today, and if that witness does testify and withstands the scrutiny of cross-examination, and the court accepts that witness's testimony that he or she was in fact an eyewitness to the shooting and knew exactly what happened on that evening, then obviously that would mean that the accused would be acquitted, and the necessary doubt would have been created to show that the accused before court now, in fact, did not commit the crime of murdering Senzo Meyiwa.
Ulrich, when it comes then to the future of this case, when it started there were some delays, and the debate revolved around the involvement, the watching brief of Kelly Khumalo's lawyer, who was subsequently then told that she would not be able to continue participating on that basis. Do you think that we're likely to see, if they were to reapply to be part of the court process, do you think that there would be a different outcome this time around, given the extent to which she has been named, and effectively the defense saying that she should be accused number one?
No, I don't think there would be a different outcome if there were to be another application now. Remember that any trial is recorded. It all forms part of the record, and that record will be typed up and made available subsequent to the finalization of the trial. So in the event that evidence is led during this trial to show that beyond or on a balance of probabilities that Kelly Khumalo did kill Senzo Meyiwa, then the South African Police Services would have to open a new docket where she would be the first accused, and they would have to present the evidence that they have obtained in that case in order to try and prove the case against her beyond a reasonable doubt. Her attorney will then have an opportunity to represent her in an adequate fashion, and obviously she would have to rely on the record of what was testified during this matter in order to either create doubt or to show to the court that the evidence led did not withstand scrutiny and that it cannot be relied upon by the court. But if that evidence is led under oath, theoretically, if a person makes a statement under oath, then the police need to investigate it, and one could expect a prosecution then where Kelly Khumalo could very well be the accused in the matter.
Ulrich Roux, Linda Mnisi, let me thank you both for your time tonight. We'll leave it there. Certainly lots more to get to in this particular trial.